All right, so we are going to be talking about how to multiply polynomials today. And it's going to be using some of the same tricks we learned with adding and subtracting, but as well as the exponent rules we learned before. Okay, so let's go straight to an example. You have multiplied before when there's just a single term. So this 2x. So what we're going to do is you're going to just distribute that in to each term. So we're going to start right here. So 2, and I multiply the coefficients first. So 2 times 3 is 6. And x times an x squared, remember this is an x to the first. So you're just going to add those exponents. So 1 plus 2 is 3. So this becomes a 6x cubed. Then we're going to go to our next terms. A 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Both of the x's have something to the first, so x times x is x to the second, because you're going to add the exponents if you recall our rules back on 2.2. Then we're going to go ahead and multiply 2x times 8. So 2 times 8 is 16. And then you just have the x. The 8 doesn't have an x on it, so you'll just keep the same exponent. Now, the last step you would always do is just see if you can add any like terms. But if you notice, all of the exponents are different, so you cannot combine any like terms, and you would be completely done with that problem. Let's go to another one. Same process. So we're going to take this first term, so negative 3x to the second, and we're going to multiply it by the first term. Now, there's just a 1. If there's no number in front of that first term, it's implied to be a 1. So we're really just doing negative 3 times 1, which is negative 3. And then when you multiply those two x's, x squared times x cubed, you add the exponent. So 2 plus 3 is 5. Negative 3x squared times negative 7x. So we're going to multiply the negative 3 with the negative 7. So we're multiplying two negatives becomes a positive. So we get positive 21. And then x squared times x. Remember, we're going to be adding these exponents. So 2 plus 1 is a 3. So we get 21x cubed. And then we do our last term. So negative 3x squared times negative 1 is a positive 3, because negative 3 times a negative 1 is positive 3, and then just keep the same exponent x squared. Once again, we always check at the end to see if there are any like terms. But you'll notice all of these exponents are different, and we are in standard form. I should have said that earlier, but they're in descending order, so the biggest exponent's first, and then the next biggest, and so on. So we are good to go. We're done. So let's talk about what you do when you have two terms in two sets of parentheses. So we know we're going to still multiply because there's nothing in between the parentheses right here. So unlike last time we learned how to add and subtract, and there would be either a plus or a minus sign. If there's no sign between the parentheses, it's implied that we're multiplying them. So when it comes to multiplying, it's just like before, except now we have two terms. So each term you're going to distribute into the other parentheses. So we're going to start with this x, and I'm going to multiply that x by this x and the 3. Okay, so we're multiplying to both of these right here. So let's just do it one at a time. So I've taken that x, I'm going to multiply it by the x. So remember, when you're multiplying x's, you just add exponents. So x times x, is just x, and then 1 plus 1 is 2, so it's x to the second. And then you're going to multiply the x by the other number. So notice I'm going to the other set of parentheses. So x times 3 is 3x. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, but now for the 5. So what you do is you take that 5 and you multiply it by, you go to the other parentheses, so 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 3 is 15. Now before we finish, because there are some like terms we've got to combine, I'm going to talk about what some people call this method. So it's sometimes referred to as the FOIL method. The F stands for first, or firsts. The O stands for outsides. It's hard to do it this way. Inner is the I, and then lasts. And this is what this means. It's a way to remember what you're doing. So you'll notice that the first thing we did is we multiplied on each parenthesis, we multiplied the first term in each parenthesis, and that's how we got the x squared. That's what the first mean. Outsides is to indicate that we're multiplying the two that are on the very end of each parenthesis, on the outside end of the parentheses. So x times the 3 give you the 3x. The inner says that you're multiplying the two inside numbers. So that's where the 5x comes from. And the last means you're multiplying the last numbers. So it's an acronym to help you remember which ones you're doing. Okay, I'm going to erase all that. So first, insides, outsides, last. So FOIL. Okay, but at the end of foiling, you always need to see if you can combine like terms. And we can in this case, because both of these terms have an exponent of 1, so we can add them together. So our final answer, we'd still have the x squared, but 3 plus 5 is 8, so this will be 8x. Remember, when you add, the exponents stay exactly the same. And then we keep the plus 15, and you are good to go. So we only combined those two. All right, let's use this method again. So remember, this is called the FOIL method, and it'll help us figure out what we're doing. So first, we're going to do the firsts. So firsts are right here. So we're going to multiply the x times the x. So remember, we add the exponents when you multiply those. So x times x is x squared. Move that down just a little bit. There we go. All right, then we do the outsides. So outsides would be the x with the 3. Those ones are on the outside. So x times 3 is a positive 3x. Do that in blue. Then we do the insides. So the inside numbers would be this -6 and that x. So notice you keep the negative with the 6. So -6 times x is -6x. And then last but not least, we do our lasts. So this -6 times the 3, -6 times 3 is -18. Now that we've FOILed, you just combine like terms. You'll notice they'll always be in the middle, the ones you'll combine. Those two both have an x. So we have x squared. 3 minus 6 is -3. So we have x squared minus 3x minus 18. And you are done.